Okay, real quick. If you're on the group tonight, well, if you were not on the group tonight, then this might not make a lot of sense to you. That's why you can't miss group. But anyway, um, talk tonight about rules and the objection to the faith being that Christianity has too many rules. I asked the question about, where we stand on um, how much do we hold fast to um, the doctrine of following rules. And so I mentioned that I have a liberal stance on a lot of things, especially with things like smoking marijuana, drinking alcohol, using profanity, right? So I said that I actually don't call those things sin in and of themselves. Not even if Christians do it, right? So I said if a Christian was like, yeah, I'm a Christian, and I smoke weed, right? If a Christian were to say that to me, I actually would not discount their Christianity at all based on that alone. Here's why. So sin, there are two ways that, biblically speaking, I would define sin. Right? One, the literal definition is where I would start. The literal definition of sin, harta in the Hebrew, is to miss the mark. That means you're aiming at something, trying to hit it, and you miss it. Right? Very basic, very general term. The second way I would define sin is how it is used in the context of law, specifically the Mosaic law, right? The Torah, the Tanakh. So in that sense, sin is to transgress or break or disobey or pervert the law. That is the Mosaic law. The things that were written, that were passed down from generation to generation, that God spoke on Mount Sinai. So with that being said, those two definitions, transgression of the law, or quite literally to miss the mark. So if I'm thinking about someone who smokes weed, which I do not smoke marijuana, but if someone does that, two questions is, number one, are you transgressing the Mosaic law, right? Or because we're not Jews, or I'm not a Jew, and most Christians are not Jews, that doesn't apply to you anyway. So I would also add to that the teachings of the New Testament. When I say teachings, I'm not talking about the ideologies of the New Testament. I'm talking about the do nots and thou musts, right? Those things are held as authoritative and black and white as the Mosaic law. So if you're not violating those two things, if you're a Jew, then it's the law. If you're, a believing Christian, it's also the teaching of the New Testament. That's one, which smoking marijuana does not violate those. The second one is to miss the mark. This is where it gets fishy, because I actually have I'll call it a philosophy, not a theology, just because it's not necessarily based on scripture as much as it is based on the definitions of words used in scripture, which particularly is sin in this case. So I know I'm talking a lot, y'all, but it's gonna make sense. So when I think of sin, I don't think of sin in the context of missing the mark as so easily as just, I just did something that the Bible said don't do. I look at it more in line with what Jesus taught on the Sermon on the Mount when he said, you've heard it said, don't commit adultery, but I tell you, if you look at a woman lustfully, you have committed adultery. If I say, you heard it said, don't murder, but if you have hatred in your heart towards your brother, you are guilty of murder. And so sin is actually more vast than even the codified laws and rules that are written in the Bible. So you can sin doing something that is not actually sin. You can be eating fried chicken. It's not a sin to eat fried chicken. But you can be missing the mark. Based on the context of your life, you could be missing the mark. That could be missing the mark just in your health in general. That could be missing the mark in your witness, right? Your relationship with other people. It could be missing the mark because you're becoming addicted, or because you're in such a state at all times that you're not able to pursue what God intends for you to pursue, right? So when I say those things aren't sin, I wouldn't look at weed smoking and say you're in sin because you're smoking weed. Because if I take the weed away, the sin is the missing of the mark, whatever that mark may be. That's the sin. So it's not the substance. The substance may be a catalyst for the missing of the mark, the sin, right? It's not a transgression of law. It's not a transgression of a rule. It is missing the mark. So those two definitions, missing the mark, transgression of the law. If it don't fit those two things, I'm not calling it sin until I see something that resembles those two definitions. Long-winded, but I hope it makes sense. Hope it helps you.